This was one of those that we found on a whim.
Yes.
And decided to watch, and it paid off really well, actually.
It did. Yeah. Some surprises.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because our first episode of this podcast was done by, we covered Bad Taste by Peter Jackson.
Yes.
And we knew going in to look for like Peter Jackson's signature stuff, right? But this one we found out afterwards that the director of this film had gone on to do like pretty big stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that.
Nope, not going in.
Going in. But I think that we, realized that he had a lot of talent and was, doing really well.
Yes.
Pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of good stuff in this film.
Pulled a lot of good lessons out of here.
Yeah, we did.
Well.
Should we roll into it?
I would like that, yes.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Hey, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for... Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
And this is Danielle.
You suck.
Or Danny, as my friends call me.
I did my bit. I brought us in.
Oh.
You just like murdered.
All right.
My whole setup. So
I found this movie on Amazon Prime while looking for, I wasn't looking for a podcast episode to watch. It was, or a movie for the podcast to do an episode, I suppose, is how we could word those. Man, this is going to be a good one, isn't it?
It's going smashing.
This is going from the
so
get. Well.
Oh,
yeah. And so we watched it, and it was when we it hasn't been on our list. We just found it and thought, oh, this seems interesting. Let's watch it. And we did. And I liked it.
Yeah. And the trailer was interesting.
Yeah.
And, that's what we do. We find things. It's not always about things we've seen.
That's true.
Because really, a lot of it's stuff we haven't seen. That's how we end up talking to people.
Yeah.
But it's about 50-50. And you build a list on things that you've seen.
Sure.
That you have, not only enjoyed the movie, but we have, things in our head. This would be a good lesson for this. Good example of that. There you go. But then we landed on this bad boy.
We did. It is a horror. It is just like a straight kind of psychological horror a little bit. Or just maybe like a regular horror. It's not super psychological.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes no qualms about being a straight up.
Right.
In your face, this is creepy, scary shit.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, this will be fun to talk about. Coming up. And we have some things going on this week.
Do.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. I'm waiting for you to tell me what things we have going on this week.
I feel like we should just stop and then do this tomorrow.
Well,
this is going poorly.
Well, I know we're talking to Miles later this week.
Yes, we're going to be on the Just Dump podcast with Miles Trout again.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about what we're going to be watching for that.
Yeah. Can we say, or is it a surprise?
Well, I don't know when his is airing and when ours is airing, so I don't want this to come out before he's announced.
Oh, I suppose. It's one of our favorite movies.
It is.
Yeah. So we'll just leave it at that. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yes.
We have a new couch coming.
Oh, that was the yes.
that was the big thing.
The thing.
Well, no, they're both, but that's the bigger thing.
Yes.
I love working with Miles. He's just so much fun.
Miles got upstaged by a couch.
But Miles is not integral to my daily comfort level. So
We don't sit on miles every day.
No. Yeah, last week, was it Friday? Yeah, Friday.
Oh,
I snapped.
yes.
I was so fucking done with this couch that we've had. I couldn't do it anymore. It's been miserable.
I have been steadily complaining about this couch for a while.
Well, yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
And it's like, but here we are. So anyway.
Yeah, our new couch, super rad.
Yep, be here in 3 days.
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, we'll have had it for a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of those things, folks. You're sitting, and some of you know what I'm talking about. You hate this piece of fucking furniture, but it's what you've got. Shopping and all that shit's just not in your head. And all of a sudden, while you're sitting there, I can't take it anymore. So I actually spent an hour and a half, 2 hours looking online at couches. So I'm like, that's it. We're fucking done. Tomorrow, we're going out.
Yeah, Lily and I were playing The Quiet Year.
Yeah.
Together. Well, you started and you weren't a fan, so Lily and I continued on our own.
Yeah, it wasn't my kind of game.
Yeah.
And that's when the couch especially started to get on my shit.
Sure.
Sitting there doing nothing. It's like, fuck. And I've been bitching about it in my head all week because, working at the couch, sit on one cushion, move to the other cushion and everything. Whether I'm sitting back with the laptop on the arm or on the table and the top lifted up and all that, it just became very obvious to me, all of the faults, every little tiny fault. So I snapped and I looked to see who had the best arrangements of couches versus prices versus availability.
Sure.
Some of these stores I was looking at, like I said, they were 26 to 40 weeks.
Well, this pandemic has severely disrupted supply chains and stuff going on in the world, from bikes to furniture to everything else.
I get that. But I also, at some point, I can't help but kind of wonder, being how free and loose a lot of places have been, why aren't they making shit? I think it's kind of an excuse. But anyway, couch was in stock and the matching chair.
Yes.
Got a matching chair. So, yeah, Tuesday, either before or probably after movie viewing night.
Probably, because we'll need a couch to watch our movie.
Yeah, before we go to good bed, we're going to haul that bitch out to the curb.
Yeah.
And berate it and deride it.
Scold it.
And leave it.
Yes.
Yes. And then Wednesday we'll get into something much better.
Prettier.
Yeah. More comfortable.
Yes.
And it's supposed to last a lot longer.
Right.
Better.
Yeah.
So that's the excitement going on so far.
Turns out you get what you pay for with a couch.
Well, you do, And so if someone says, hey, this is a $5,000 couch, but we're, discounting it to, like $600. Well, it's a fucking lie. It's just common sense. There's no way in any universe this thing was $5,000 worth of quality or materials and you're discounting it that much. It's a $400 couch, jacked it up to $600 and you put $5,000 with an X through it on the tag. So
yes.
Yeah, that kind of ridiculous nonsense. So anyway,
in other news.
Yeah.
Well, we briefly mentioned it when we were talking about the couch thing. The Quiet Year is a cool game. It's a cool little tabletop game. I know you're not a fan, but I just wanted to plug it because I think it's neat.
Sure.
It's a cooperative cartography game. You build a map together. And our 12-year-old daughter and I played it together after you abandoned our civilization. We had a lot of fun. We got silly with it. And made a very, it's a sophisticated
I think you
map
need to be fair, though. And you need to let people know it's a long game.
It is a long game. It's like a 3 to 4 hour game.
Yeah. Because you had to finish it the next.
Yeah. Well, I think teaching is kind of a big part of it.
I don't know. I get the feeling that this could go on for hours and hours.
So,
Yeah.
so
Anyway.
look it up. The Quiet Year. It's fun.
Well, yeah. And, you can do it with a deck of cards.
Yeah, you can do it with a deck of cards and some dice and a piece of paper. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need for this game. So you kind of go through and you build this community through prompts that come up on cards that you draw throughout the course of the year. They ask you questions about your civilization that are sometimes like practical and sometimes philosophical, sometimes ideological. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend giving it a read and check out.
All right.
And another thing.
One more thing?
We're very excited about.
What are we excited about?
And Midge is very excited about it.
Oh.
Saturday. Midge is getting her first dose of the vaccine.
Oh, yes.
She is just of age. Like she turned 12 just like the week before they started talking about opening it up to 12 to 16-year-olds.
Yep, she just popped in there.
I know. And she was telling us that some of her friends who have summer birthdays are plumb furious.
Hey, is what it is. Same thing with like driver's licenses and driver's ed. And, even when you start school.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people who are just like 2 days past the cutoff. So they're a year behind.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you got to draw the line and hold it somewhere.
It's true.
Yeah. Otherwise we're, going to have, 8-year-olds trying to enroll in high school just because.
Right. Yeah.
So we're just going to erase all the lines.
Mm-hmm. And I have a summer birthday too. And mine is like just before school starts. It's, late summer. Yours is very late summer. So I was always the youngest in the class or like the second youngest. It was.
I was always age appropriate.
Huh. What do you mean?
Well, when you count 6 years old in first grade, 7 years old in second grade, third, fourth, you should be 17 when you hit your senior year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I turned 17 in my senior year, depending when school started. Usually it didn't start in August. It always started like after Labor Day.
Yeah. Well, I'd always just turned that age. But everyone else had already been that age for like 6 months or more.
Well, it's because they should be in a higher grade than you, but they missed the cutoff.
Oh.
See, you turn 18 after.
So what you're saying is we have optimal birthdays.
We do. We are the optimal age.
Okay.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about this movie?
I would like to.
So why don't you tell us what we got going here?
All right. This movie is called Absentia. Absentia. It is not to be confused with the Prime show Absentia.
Right.
But it kind of follows the same idea, I guess.
I have no idea.
Well, the show Absentia is about like an FBI agent who is marked as dead in absentia, and then she has to figure out what to do about that.
Oh.
This is, I mean, it references the same thing. Anyway.
Sure.
This is a movie made in 2011, directed by Mike Flanagan, written by Mike Flanagan, starring Katie Parker, Courtney Bell, Dave Levine, rated R. The budget for this was $75,000. And the logline is: a woman and her sister begin to link a mysterious tunnel to a series of disappearances, including that of her own husband. Short and sweet. I love it.
Yeah. To the point.
Yep. There was an alternate one. So this one was pulled from IMDb. There was an alternate one on Prime Video.
Yeah.
That was a little different.
We have talked about fucking Prime Video and their wide array of descriptions for things.
Right.
What was the one? A movie that's just different enough from the original to avoid a copyright lawsuit? Was that? Nosferatu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the writer-director of this movie, Absentia, Mike Flanagan, would go on to direct Dr. Sleep.
Yes.
Starring Ewan McGregor, the sequel to The Shining.
Yeah. That we have not seen yet.
I know. I want to see it. But you know what I want to do? I want to rewatch The Shining and then watch Dr. Sleep.
Right? Yeah. That makes sense.
It's been a really long time since I've watched The Shining.
I know. Has been. There's been a lot of like memes and stuff and Twitter and everything and a lot of screenshots and people referencing it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it does give me a little melancholy feeling.
Yeah.
I want to see Jack lose his shit in a fucking hotel.
Right?
Oh man. All right. Should we get into this movie?
Sure. Yes. Start us off.
Well, we start with an old missing person poster for someone named Daniel Riley. A woman comes up and takes it down, replaces it with a new one. And then we see her continuing to do this on her walk. Then we have another woman knocking on a door, putting on headphones, and then sits on the steps because no one answers the door, and she's smoking a cigarette. And then we cut back to the other woman who is walking through a tunnel with her posters or flyers. And then suddenly she's with the other woman on the steps. So the first woman we learn is Trisha.
You learned it. I didn't catch her name for a while.
Okay. Well, that's all right because I got the sister's name, but I fucked it up. I had to go back and replace all of it.
Oh.
Misheard it. Wasn't my fault. Things happening. And we see that Trisha is pregnant. Very pregnant, in fact.
Yeah, she's gonna pop.
Yeah. So they go inside. So apparently Trisha was expecting this other woman just later in the day or evening. Later, they're having some wine and Trisha's having soda juice. It seems this other woman has been driving all over the country. And I really didn't get this part. I mean, this was kind of, I think like my one criticism was I think we could have not had this long of a scene because the longer it went on, the more confusing it became to me. Because it was like, this is clearly set up dialogue, but there's too much.
Sure.
Because I'm sitting here thinking she's going to clinics. Is she an alcoholic? Is she a drug addict? Is she a social worker? What? Because they didn't land on anything. You know, that was the only thing. And then we find out they're sisters. And then we get shots of the guy from the poster in pictures around the apartment.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the sister finds some paperwork. It's a death in absentia paperwork. So Trisha's husband is the guy who's been missing. He's been missing for 7 years. And I don't know. This is in my notes. This is kind of silly. But my thought was 7 years. My first thought was, how is she pregnant?
Well. Right?
So there's another little something we can talk about. Anyway, it's neither here. We'll get to that. They start to burn all of the old posters in the fireplace, all the ratty, weather-worn stuff, right? So, and it seems Daniel just like vanished out of the blue one day.
Yes.
You know, not like, packed his shit and left. Literally just disappeared.
Right.
You know, Trisha goes over all of the things she thought about the first year after he vanished. I thought this was kind of cool.
Right. It was all that, like, what she thought might have happened,
Yeah. And not having gone through this, I can't intelligently speak to what your mind does.
Right.
Right. But this logically, it makes sense. You would run through the gamut of stuff, Some of it is, psychological defense and fencing in your head.
Right.
Well, he had a gambling problem and pissed somebody off and didn't tell me about it. And ran, it's not me. It's not because of me they left. right?
Right.
But people do run through that part too.
Right.
You know, what did I do? Why was I so horrible? Blah, blah, blah. But then you go through, that can only carry you for so long. And then, yeah, the mind will start shifting in your imagination. And you're just like, you know, maybe, you know, she talked about him being like a secret agent.
Right.
And his cover was blown and he had to go to protect her and all this noble stuff, you know. And on its face, it seems ridiculous. But, you know, when you're looking at it, as she's talking about, through the perspective of, well, what do you fucking think about when somebody literally vanishes?
Right.
The only thing that would be weirder is me looking at you and then poof, you just like literally vanishing before my eyes, right? But short of that, what do you think about? Well, I thought this was well done.
Well, yeah.
Because it's not an often touched on thing with people in these situations.
Right.
There's a lot of movies where people just disappear.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the struggle of carrying on and stuff. So anyway, okay, let's get back to him. Later, the sister is unpacking. She comes across something, acts all weird about it, and then hides it under her bed. It's this like green box.
Yes.
Right. And it's like a lunchbox, or you don't really get to see it. But it's like, oh, okay. It's a little keepsake thingy. So then later again, Trisha is in bed, but wakes up, and we see a figure moving behind her. She goes to the stairs, turns on the light, and we see this figure move out of frame just as the light comes on.
Right. So it's like she's kind of following.
Yeah, just
this
like
shadow
on the edge of it, right? So we get to see it enough to know that there is something there, but not enough to be like, oh, it's
right.
She goes down the stairs, and then she sees someone standing by the patio door inside, looking out, and she calls out, "Danny." She gets closer, and it's sobbing. So she goes to touch his shoulder, and this is excellent editing.
Yeah.
She goes to touch, and all of a sudden the head is facing her, not the body, just the head. Didn't whip around. And it seemed almost seamless.
It was really well done.
This was such a smooth editing job. Yeah. It just like, you know, and I mean, it did. Whoa.
Yeah.
You think that's shit.
It's creepy.
So it screams and then reaches out to her. And then boom, Trisha wakes up in bed. This was a dream.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was excellently done. Very creepy.
And it was, this was a very different take on the jump scare.
Yeah.
Jump scare is like, you know, look around the corner. Boo! We know, we've been looking at this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, you know it's there.
Yeah, and she's going up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was just enough to go, ugh.
So it's the next morning. The sister is going for a run. And she head towards the tunnel. And this tunnel is just down the street from Trisha's house. It's like under a bypass tunnel kind of
Right.
thing.
It's not even a block.
Right.
It's like 2 houses up. And then there's the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 5, 6 houses.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, because you can see it pretty clearly.
From her front door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sister goes towards the tunnel because Trish had said that there's like a park on the other side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes through and I wrote, it's a freaky tunnel.
Well, to be honest, I have not in my life found a pedestrian tunnel under overpasses or anything that's been anything but nasty.
That's true. I mean, even if there isn't graffiti, which there is in this tunnel,
right,
like everywhere, and it looks grungy and dirty and dusty and stuff. Like we have pedestrian tunnels that go under bridges all over this town.
Yeah. And
just the spider webs. Like and then leaves collect in them. And I mean, they just always look grungy and nasty. And creepy.
Well, we do not have I guess you would say a suitable cleaning service.
Sure.
They're always neglected. And that's, the shit collects and cobwebs and things get caught. Leaves and dirt and everything collect in the corners and the bends and the pole, just all that stuff. So I can see it. But I've been to some, really like nice places.
Mm-hmm.
And they put this, because they decide, hey, we're going to, put a giant highway through your fucking subdivision.
Right.
We'll kind of do it over and we'll give you this tunnel. Even still, like I said, without graffiti, they just never look fucking clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even if I saw a clean one, I might be even more freaked out by that.
Yeah, because then I would start thinking shit like, well, they're only clean in movies, and they're clean in the movies so that weird shit can happen in them.
Right.
There's
something in the human psyche that makes us wary of tunnels.
It's because it's out of the ordinary. That's okay. There you go.
Yeah.
That messed up, funky looking fucking tunnels are so much the norm.
I know.
That we've been trained to accept that, even though it's creepy, but we'd be even more weirded out if we saw this one that was like pristine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. We could write like a Psychology Today article about that.
It'd be fun. We could make a short about a clean tunnel.
Oh,
it's a portal to some weird... anyway.
We'd have to clean it and then look at it. No. Okay.
So, so it's a freaky tunnel. And, this is a horror movie. So I'm like, oh, is she going to make it? Yeah, she makes it to the other side. No problem. She's just going for a morning run.
Yes. You're spot on. I'm like, we're only 14 minutes into this fucking movie.
Right.
But that's not a guarantee that she's going to make it through this seedy looking fucking tunnel.
Yep. So on the other side of the tunnel, she's running around, and there are lots of missing pet posters around here.
Yeah.
They
showed like 6 of them as she's jogging. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah. And that has been used in a lot of different movies as the signal of something messed up happening that no one is really noticing. Right.
Right.
So, anyway, she's on her run and she makes it to this beautiful, woodsy bluff kind of overlooking the city. And then on her way back, she walks through the tunnel and there is this skinny, weird looking guy, green. He's green. And he's laying there.
Yeah, he's not healthy looking at all.
Right. Across the tunnel, his head is at a weird angle. He looks dead, but he's breathing. And as she walks by, he wakes up and he seems just shocked to see her. And she's freaked out too. And one of the things he says is, you can see me? You can see me? And he introduces himself. He says his name is Walter, and he mentions his son, and she's freaked out by him. But she also is trying to be nice, as she's edging her way past him. She's like, I'll bring you some dinner. It's, I don't have any money. I'm,
Yeah, gotta go.
But I'll bring you some food later. So she runs into the house, and then she sees Trish with a detective looking over some paperwork. And there's obviously something going on between Trish and this detective.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. Here's daddy, right?
Yep.
And I loved how you wrote in your notes earlier, how is she pregnant? Because I saw that and I was like, well, Jim, sweetie, I think we both know how that works.
Well, okay, so here, well, let's save it till the end.
Okay.
It's a point that I want to talk about. It's about story building.
Okay. All right. Whew. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this. Maybe I did, but he introduced himself. The guy in the tunnel introduced himself as Walter and mentioned his son. She was he was asking about his son. Anyway, so there's Trish and the detective in the house. So the sister goes to take a shower. And as Trish is shutting the door, showing out the detective, she shuts the door and her husband is there, behind the door.
Yeah.
And he just says, I know what you did. And then he's gone.
But it's a weird looking version of her husband.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's creepy.
I mean, it's not full on. Shit.
Well, it's horror movie version. He's got hollow sockets for eyes,
Yeah.
and his mouth is a big gaping black hole.
Why can't I think of the movie?
I don't know.
It's one of the many Japanese horror movies that have made their way over, and I can't.
Like Grudge?
The Grudge.
The Ring?
I think it's The Grudge.
Okay.
No, Dark Water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never saw that one. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
So Trish just kind of she reacts to this, but she doesn't like cry out or anything. She doesn't scream. Right. She just jumps a little bit. So they're eating, and then I didn't have her name yet, so I wrote ex-druggie sister. So we've established by now that she is an ex-druggie, right? She asked for an extra plate so she can bring food to Walter, the tunnel guy. So she goes there with the Tupperware, and he isn't there, so she just leaves the Tupperware at the entrance of the tunnel.
Right.
And walks away. Back in the house, Trish is, or actually, the sister is boxing up books in her room. And she goes into the other room where Trish is staring at empty boxes. She's supposed to be packing.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be packing up Trish's house. She's supposed to be moving. And Trish doesn't seem about it. She's just kind of spacing as she's supposed to be packing. And this is where I got her name. So I wrote, I got a name. So the sister goes to bed. And then Trish is tossing and turning.
I think we need to back up just a second.
Okay.
Because I think we missed when she was dropping off the food, she ran into that guy.
Nope, that's later.
That's later?
Yep.
Okay, never mind.
You do this to me a lot. You got to trust me, man.
Fine. Okay, so she's working through her shit.
Yeah. So Trish is kind of tossing in bed, and the door opens, and she looks, and it's her sister, and I got the name of her sister here, Callie.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. 2 names. And so Callie's just kind of checking in, and she leaves, and then Trish looks up again, like straight up from the bed, not at the door.
Right.
And it's Daniel, her creepy, vacuous eyes and mouth husband.
Yeah.
That version of him. And he smiles, and he just plunges his hand into her pregnant stomach. And it is eerie.
Yes.
Yeah. The next thing we know, Trish is talking to someone, a psychologist, I think, who thinks that her lucid dreams about her husband are because she's declaring him dead in absentia. It's because she started this process.
Right.
And then we see Callie running through the tunnel. And then we're back with the psychologist, and he's telling Trish that, this isn't unusual. People kind of, see this kind of stuff all the time. It's normal. It's, how people sometimes work through their grief and their guilt, which there can be a lot of guilt, you know. I mean, yeah, if you're declaring someone dead in absentia because they've been gone for 7 years.
Well, you're giving up.
Yeah.
Even though all of the facts are there, right? And circumstance and everything. After 7 years of somebody just vanishing.
Right.
You have to.
The paperwork, though, is the official giving up. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, you have to, not only for yourself, but there are legal and life issues.
Yes.
That can't hang there anymore.
Well, I mean, there's life insurance. There's, if you own any property or, have any assets together.
Well, right. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
Claims, you have to have them death so you can execute the will and the estate and get everything done, because it's because someone's missing. Say you have things set up where you need both of your signatures.
Right.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
You're absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
So there is a lot, and movies don't always deal with this because it's boring. But
yeah, And they don't always, they don't go into it directly in here. But one of the things that I think this has probably affected is her ability to move out of this apartment or this house.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if it's a condo or even an apartment or a house, if they're not both there to do the selling or whatever it is that she needs to get done to move out.
Yeah, I don't know if they owned it or...
I don't know. Maybe it's a townhouse.
Maybe. I just seemed kind of weird. They weren't real clear on it. But either way, well, they would have had to have owned it. Had to have had a mortgage on it.
Sure.
Because if it was a lease, it would have been up like fucking year one.
Anyway, this is why they don't go into it in the movie, because that's not very exciting to talk about.
I find it titillating.
I know, baby.
So anyway, yeah. It's the kind of thing that needs to get done.
Right.
So, it makes it, and they make it so it makes sense. They didn't get into a big emotional thing,
No, but the psychologist is like, this, I mean, it's not unusual for people to go through something like this.
Right.
And he's not wrong.
Absolutely not. It was like spot on.
Yeah.
And we didn't get like a whole lot of time on it, which was good.
Yeah. And I think it was done well, because I think if you are on the other side of that, if you're on Trish's side of it and someone's telling you, this is normal, everyone goes through this, you always think, because I've been told things like that, and you always think in your head, I know you say that and it does make sense, but this feels, yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, so while things are going on, Callie gets to the house, and there are a ton of pins and keys. It was kind of a quick
buttons, coins.
It looked like a couple handfuls of just random shit.
Right.
That's like, what are those pins, keys? Sitting on the stoop.
The kind of thing that like a magpie might collect. Just little shiny things.
It did sort of make me think of detectorists.
A little bit, yeah.
Where are the birds? So she goes back to the tunnel and drops them all there. And then a guy says, don't leave those there. And then he leaves a trash bag full of something.
Right.
At the tunnel edge, and tells her, just don't, as he leaves.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
It is. It's eerie.
So then we cut to Trisha, and she's at the lawyer's office making sure paperwork is all set up. Trisha signs the last form, and Daniel suddenly is behind the lawyer screaming with no sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's gone. It's done. So later at night at home, Trisha is packing clothes. A lot of packing.
Yes.
And I've got to say, I understand, but these are the slowest fucking packers ever.
Yes.
Especially knowing this has been coming up. And I have a thing about packing. You know this.
Yes.
Get it done. Anyway, so Callie decides she's going to bed. And while she's brushing her teeth, she sees a bug in the sink.
A silverfish.
Yeah.
I hate seeing those.
Those are awful. And then she hears a sound from behind the shower curtain. And she ultimately looks, because there's a lot of sound and looking, sound and looking, sound. She's brushing her teeth. She looks in there and nothing. I want to say, this scene in the bathroom, you made the comment, that is the longest shower ever.
It is so long.
Well, you can tell this was a very tight space.
Yes. So
they used, to me, and not just a wide angle, because those are super obvious, right?
Oh, yeah.
The wide angle, because it curves everything. So it looked like they used a wide angle pan and tilt, or tilt and shift lens, which they use for architecture. So you want to take a picture of a house, right? You got to do it up close. Well, you want to do it up close, but you want to use a wide angle. Well, they have these tilt and shifts that it's like two sets of lenses, and through optical magicry.
Right.
Normally when you take a, picture of something like a house up close, the top goes in,
mm-hmm.
Everything's bent. Well, this kind of makes it so everything is straight.
Okay.
And it's an awesome trick that very few people have ever utilized for film. Because you can slap that bitch on the end of a movie camera. And that's why it looked straight. But like, God damn, that bathtub is 8.5 feet long. Because it didn't look super long.
And I mean, it was probably a trick they used, not specifically to make it look like there was a very long shower, but so that they could get a good, wide angle of the room without it looking weird.
Well, yeah, that's just it. Yeah, it made it look straight, but you can't fix that distortion of space. All the lines are straight 90 degrees. But I mean, it's fine. It worked.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But I just wanted to bring that up because I cracked up when you said that. So anyway, we get to Trisha, who is in her room with incense and a meditation bowl. She's trying to meditate, which apparently this has been her thing.
Right.
For a while. And then something is distracting her. And then we see over her shoulder, Daniel is in the corner of the room. And then he's like, because they cut, right? So these are like edits. And then next time he's like right up in her shit. And then he's mumbling something, but we can't make it out.
Right.
Right. And then he's next to her over here and then back and forth. And Trisha keeps her eyes closed and is trying to push through it.
Right.
And then he's gone.
She's got the attitude like, if I ignore you, you will have to go away.
Yeah. Don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
It's like everything else in meditation. Push it out, silence.
Yep.
Quiet thought, quiet mind. So then he's gone. She opens her eyes with a big sigh.
Yeah.
So this is not just offhand. Callie hits the light and climbs into bed. She pulls back the covers, and all of those trinkets from before are in her bed. And
even more, it seems like.
Yeah. So then we cut to the detective and cops coming down the stairs. The detective is gathering information. Now the detective and Trisha are having some kind of weird argument about him telling her for 2 years to get out of that part of town. It's really not very clear. This was kind of it happened and then it ended. So she called the police.
Right, because someone had been in
the house and dropped this stuff off.
Yes.
This is, I gotta say, the detective bits of this movie are the weakest.
That's fair.
The dialogue is poor. The story stops and this like thing happens. And I could have seen those cut out. I mean, they're not horrible. But they are the weakest part of this movie. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just as I took my notes, that's how it played out. I was trying to sort out, is this a fucking dream? Is this another, shitting thing going on? What, did I miss something? Was the pins enough? Because this seemed like this seemed like a big response. If you call the police and say someone's been in my house, you usually don't get 5 officers and 4 detectives.
That's true.
Even if you're fucking the lead detective. Right? So, it was completely disproportionate to the pin. So I was really trying to, was she having a psycho thing or whatever? Anyway. So all that comes and goes. And especially the whole thing with him. They've been talking about getting out of that part of town. Seemed like a nice fucking part of town to me, except for the creepy fucking underpass.
Well, he alludes to, when he's saying, he's been telling her to get out of that part of town, he alludes to the fact that, like, weird shit happens in this part of town.
Well, yeah. But, it happens in the other part of town, too, clearly, we see. I guess he's not privy to that part of town.
Right.
It's not where he works.
Right.
Fair enough. Okay. So the next morning, Callie is out running. She goes the opposite direction of the tunnel. She comes to that intersection. She looks at it. She's like, no, fuck this noise. And then later, she's back at the house packing. Trisha's at work. And then Callie pulls out that box
that she hid under her bed.
Yeah, that she was all weird about. She opens it and then we cut away.
Right.
We don't see what's in it. We just see her like with her thumbs. Lid comes up, and as that's happening, we cut away from that. And then later, Callie is in the bathroom. Trisha comes home. Callie goes downstairs, finds Trisha sitting on the couch, and the death certificate has come.
Yes.
So there it is. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's official. Trisha's all weirded out over it and goes to bed, which...
Well, I mean, it's the final
culmination, the indisputable, irrefutable proof that it's done.
Well, yeah.
You know? And
I mean, it's kind of the opposite, but how we felt when Lily's birth certificate and social security card came after the adoption, you know?
Yeah. Only we were anxious for it to go.
Well,
So, it's the opposite. I get it. Well, that's just it. I mean, up until it's that whole thing, until you get something like that, until you hold the death certificate in your hand, until you see the dead body, there's always what if.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's always that one element keeping it from cementing itself into your life with permanency. And this was it.
Yeah.
This was the dab of super glue that, held it all together. So, I could see where she'd be weirded out. So she goes to bed, and later we cut to the tunnel, and we see a figure, and then some odd noises, and then we cut away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we see Callie running again, and it's like the morning. And she sees that there's an apartment that has a vacancy, and she brings Trish to look at it. And then we get a little montage of them looking at a bunch of different apartments. So now that Trish has got the death certificate, she's moving on. She's looking for new places.
Yep. Time to go.
Right. She officially asks out the detective. Right.
Yeah.
Sure. And she puts away all the old Danny stuff, essentially. The ring, she puts away the picture of their wedding day.
Yeah, sticks it in a drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The death certificate. Callie's being very supportive. She's helping Trish get ready for this date with the cop. And we see Daniel there in the background, right?
Yeah.
And Trish is trying her best to ignore him, right? And it's kind of interesting because Callie's helping her. She's like got the closet door open, and Callie's pulling out things for Trish to, yay or nay, wear this, don't wear this. And Danny's like in the closet,
Here's Danny.
It's creepy. So the detective comes to pick up Trisha, and he reminds Callie to lock the door, right? So as they're walking out the door, Trish grabs his hand, and she sees Daniel in the road watching them, but she ignores him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she is walking, and the detective stops walking.
Yeah.
And he sees Daniel also.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out this is actually Daniel.
Right. You don't notice it right away.
Right.
But he doesn't have the blacked out eyes and the weird
vacuous hole for a mouth.
Yeah, and the pasty shit.
Right.
It's actually him. You're so used to seeing creepy fucker.
Right.
Right? He's like, oh, of course he's there because she's going out and this and that. And all of a sudden, whoa.
Right.
Whoops.
It's the detective staring at him, and he's like, what the So yeah, this is actually Daniel, alive, not well.
Not at all.
Not well, but alive. And we hear Trish. I mean, we get kind of this like lots of stuff happening right now, as it would happen if you found someone who'd been missing for 7 years and they didn't look good. There's a lot of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Trish is making a call. She's letting someone know that Daniel has come home on the phone. We see Daniel in the hospital. He's being treated for dehydration and malnutrition. He's not speaking, except he asks the doctor, "You can see me?"
Right.
We hear the police saying that his body shows signs of significant physical abuse.
Right.
Right. And they make sure to point that out, that it's like unsettlingly significant abuse. Yeah. They finally get out of him. He just says he was underneath. That's the only word. I was underneath.
Yeah.
And then they're taking him home, and they get up to the front door. Callie and Trish are walking him into, to the house, and he turns and he looks at the tunnel and he wets himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he isn't speaking a lot.
No.
So they take him in and they bring him up into the bedroom and they kind of try to let him sleep. And then the police are coming back to the house. So I guess they've just let Daniel out of the hospital, and then the police are coming and harassing them.
Yeah. See, these fucking detectives, man.
Yeah.
Just shitting all over this. Anyway.
So they're telling Trish and Callie, who are like, seriously, just leave him alone for a little bit. They're saying they want to talk to Daniel. They've just talked to the doctor and they need to clear some things up with him. And they hear from upstairs just a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So they go up and they find Daniel hiding in the spare room, which is where Callie's been sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops start interrogating him, basically. This poor, obviously fucked up dude, right? They're saying that he had animal bones in his stomach.
Yeah.
That the clothes he was brought to the hospital in are literally the clothes he was wearing the day he disappeared. He still had his wallet.
Yeah, the one. So it's the primary detective who's the father,
right,
of the baby we've not spoken about once.
Yeah.
In this, it is I don't know. I guess the older seasoned officer.
I guess.
Or detective, and this other one is younger,
mm-hmm.
and he's like quick to be the dick.
Sure.
In all these instances, and yeah, he's like, who goes missing for 7 years and still has their wallet? Nobody took it from you?
Right. You're saying you were just, well, where were you? What happened? Why are you still wearing the same clothes? And they're like, none of this adds up.
Maybe Daniel's just a badass street ninja.
Right? I mean.
Anyway.
So, then the detective pulls Trish aside and is like, can we talk later? Okay. So then Callie goes in after everyone is settled down and stuff. Callie's in there. She's like calming Daniel down, right? And he looks at her and he's like, you disappeared too. And she's like, yeah, I was chasing a guy. This is what she says.
Yeah.
And he asks how she got out. And then Trish comes in and is like, can I talk to my husband alone for a minute? So Callie leaves and Trish just kind of stares at him and she's already near to tears. And she's just like, yeah. Well, yeah. Which is fair.
Well, it is. But it falls heavily into that category we've been talking a lot about lately. Is now the right time for relationship issues? I mean, we've had it in zombie apocalypses. We've had it in, terrorist situations, all these movies. And that was the first thing I thought of is now the time? I mean, he just 4 hours ago pissed himself.
Yeah.
On your front porch. I don't even know that he was released from the hospital. I think you might have just taken him from the hospital because he
I'm not sure.
Look good, right?
He does not.
And then the fucking cops are coming haranguing him, and everyone's all up in his shit. And Callie was the only that conversation was the only thing that was peaceful and meaningful and seemed like this would be helpful and connecting. But then Trisha comes in and just shits all over that.
Right.
Well,
so they have this sort of personal moment together, it's awkward and weird. And then he points to her baby belly and she's just like, no. And then they hug and cry. And then we cut to the detective and Trish are meeting and they're in a car, right?
Well, she gets a text.
Yeah.
She sneaks outside.
And meets him in a car.
And I think, it wasn't, it was like an underground, or not underground, but like a parking
area.
ramp thing. Yeah. And was it? Because
I'm not really sure what it is.
yeah.
Anyway, they're in a vehicle somewhere. And the detective's telling her, you don't have to make any decision or anything, but I'll be there to support the baby and you and whatever your husband is now. He's not the same as he was, yada, yada, yada. And this is the point at which I was like, dude, maybe give it a minute,
Yeah, I'm with you. Not only give it a minute, but reel it in and zip it up, Kojak.
Right.
You
back the fuck up.
You have a massive conflict of interest. So there isn't a police department in the United States of America where you would fucking survive charges, right? You are fucking the woman who filed the missing persons report.
Mm-hmm.
You are fucking the woman who is the primary in the case that you're investigating. So clearly it's in your best interest to make him stay missing, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because clearly you fucked her and you knocked her up.
Right.
So he's back. Yeah. No police lieutenant or captain or chief would let this fucking guy within 1,000 miles of this shit.
Yeah.
Right. But he's being Billy Bob Dick about the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. We're on the same page. You fucker.
Yeah. Back up a bit. It's just, yeah.
So while all this bullshit's going on, Callie is woken up by Daniel, who is reading Billy Goat's Gruff, which we had seen earlier.
Yeah.
Right. Babbling about something, couldn't quite put it together. He says he wishes Callie hadn't traded with it, whatever it is, and that it fixates.
Right.
So we're getting a sense it translates to who.
Right.
Right. Says maybe it will go away as he's looking out into the hallway, and then we hear a weird sound. And then he starts babbling, no more, no more, no more, no more.
Right. And earlier in this conversation, I think Callie had asked him why he's in with her. And he was like, well, it's in the other room. It's in the walls.
Yes. Yeah. So Callie looks out there, and then we hear the sound. This weird sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she goes into the bathroom, and she hears the sound. And this was really good.
It was good.
And this is, where that 8-foot tub, the seemingly looked thing, really worked for this instance.
Yes.
She looks in the shower, right? So the farthest away from us, like she did before, she pulls it back, looks in, and then the side closest to the camera explodes outward.
Yes.
At the same time, she peels it back, and just as her head goes in, bam! And then we cut.
Mm-hmm.
Screen goes black. Fucking excellent.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that was gorgeous.
Really well done.
So we cut back to the car with Trisha and the detective. See, and this is what I don't understand. If it was her, she's in the driver's seat. So
I don't know.
Anyway, so they talk, and then they kiss, and then we see him leaving. And then Trisha notices her front door is open, and then the detective comes back, and then Callie is running up the street yelling, he's gone, over and over, and crying. So inside the house is a wreck, and Callie is asked, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And so then we cut, flashback. After this whole shower thing, we see her coming. Coming to, yeah, because she passed out or was knocked out.
She was knocked out or something.
Yeah. So she's coming to in the bathroom. She crawls out of the bathroom as Daniel tries to crawl away from something. And then we see that something pulling him down the hall.
Something with like long, hairy, tendril-like legs.
Yeah. And then we hear that
insect-like.
Kind of, yeah. But also I can't make the sound. It's also like a wet
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Like throaty, clicky, weird shit. That itself is unsettling.
Yeah.
So then it drags him down the stairs. Callie is following. The living room is a wreck. On the ceiling, we see the plaster moving. And then Daniel is up there on the ceiling, and then all of a sudden he falls to the floor. And then he's dragged out the door. And then he's dragged into the tunnel. Callie's following the whole way. And then we see him up against the wall in the tunnel, and something is on him.
Yeah.
And then he's gone. It was weird. It was, this is what I like. It was fast. I didn't get hardly any view of what this thing was, but that's what makes it unsettling.
Right.
Even more unsettling.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching, and it was like something big, insect-like kind of, know.
But before you even get a chance to like put 3 pieces of it together, like top, bottom, and, one of these appendages, gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like that. So anyway, Callie then is alone in the tunnel. So then we come back and she's explaining to the other detective what happened, and he's hinting that she's drunk or high. And then there's some chatter, and then the main detective, big bald baby boy, baby maker,
baby daddy,
says he needs to bet. What happened here?
Be the one.
He needs to be the one. Jesus Christ. Needs to be the one to do something. I didn't understand what that meant when I was typing it out either. Whatever. So then we see them sitting, and then he says he hates to say it, but she needs to fill out a missing persons report.
And at this point I was like, oh my God.
Right?
Oh.
It's like the last 7 years never happened.
Right.
Oh, shit. So then Trisha is accusing Callie of being high. She goes through her stuff, finds the box. It's drugs.
The ever ubiquitous drugs.
I know. Well, they didn't make it clear what she was.
No.
Is she a cokehead? Is she a hopper?
They don't know. We don't know what kind of drugs. Just drugs of some kind.
Drugs. So they argue. She slaps Callie and leaves the room. Later, Callie is looking up missing persons on her computer. Later, she gets Trisha to look on her computer. On it is the dude from the tunnel from earlier, the green guy.
Right. Who Callie saw, but Trisha never actually saw him.
Right. Yeah, because Callie came in and told her about this dude.
Right.
And then she goes on, there's a history of people having gone missing in that tunnel, or before it was built in that area. Apparently it was a sinkhole or a swamp or some shit. And yeah, the sinkhole that was there. And then she goes on to talk about how every culture has stories of spirit people who take the living. So we've immediately jumped past this weird fucking tunnel in this neighborhood to,
all over.
Yeah. Worldwide.
Everywhere. Yeah. And also like bridges, Yeah.
There's little reference things that there's quick shots of stuff on there. Trisha's not on board with this. And then there's a knock at the door. So it's Daniel's parents, who Trisha had called earlier, to say,
Daniel's back. He's come home. Yeah, that's who she was on the phone with earlier.
Right. So Trisha says she has to tell them something. I'm thinking, oh my God, how sucky is this?
Right. They've flown here.
Well, their son is missing. 7 years later, their daughter-in-law is declaring him dead. and same kind of thing, right? From a parent's perspective. At one point, you got to just be like, oh, gotta move on, And then, just as you fucking reconcile with that,
sorry.
Yep, homie's back. Oh, fuck. Okay, well, let's plan a trip to go out there and see him. Right?
Go out there and see him.
Then you get there, and your daughter-in-law is like,
so
about that.
He's missing.
He's gone again. Oh, fuck. What?
What a roller coaster.
Oh, mess. So we cut to the dad looking pissed and hurt, mom crying. And I thought, this is actually pretty tame. I don't know that the movie would benefit from a full-on emotional outburst
Probably not.
Because they're not even like periphery to the story. They're just an incidental.
Yeah.
And then that's it. So later, Callie is napping on the bed. She hears sirens. I don't know if it was just supposed to be the cops or if it was just like a neighborhood, like we hear sirens sometimes.
Right.
Then the detective, the young one, Super Dick, is outside knocking on the door. So Trisha answers, says he needs to speak to Callie because they found a body in the tunnel. So Trisha...
Immediately.
Yep. Full boat pregnant and all, starts sprinting towards the tunnel.
Yeah.
Callie comes up and identifies the body that they found as Walter, the dude she saw before.
And he is all twisted up.
He is, yeah. Like if you can imagine taking like a slinky and then just like pulling it, stretching it, twisting it, and then laying it out. Yeah, he is just all every fucking direction. And then the weird dude with the garbage bag from before,
who told her, just don't.
Yeah, just don't. Comes up with another bag, sees Walter, drops the bag, and starts crying. Later, we see him being put in cuffs and in a cop car.
Well, because we see what was in the bag.
Yeah.
It was a small dog.
Yeah. And then at the station, the detectives are talking to him, and this dude is Walter's son. They're accusing him of being behind all of these pets disappearing in the neighborhood. So this is obviously where the animal bones in Daniel's stomach came from.
Right.
This guy's leaving dead animals at the entrance to the tunnel. So they ultimately let him go. But one of the things that they do mention is, they suspecting him to be a serial killer because you start with animals.
Right.
Right. And then all of a sudden they let him go.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. There was a couple more things there, but, they weren't super important details.
No.
Mostly,
super important.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of like tuned out the detectives because they were, like I said, just the whole thing that just sort of made me go,
Well, one of the things that this guy makes a good point about is because they're asking him, lots of questions, and they're like, because he's trying to explain about there's something in the tunnel.
Yeah.
It had my dad.
Yeah.
My dad's dead now. And they're like, well, why didn't you come to the police? And he's like, I fucking did. And you didn't do anything.
Yeah, you couldn't be bothered. Okay.
And then he's like, can I go so I can plan my father's funeral?
Yeah. Even still, though, if you suspect someone of being a serial killer, you don't just like we have a couple quick questions. You detain him. You've got stuff, right? To detain him on other charges. And then he just,
Yeah. Because they do have, apparently a history of missing persons in this area.
Yeah. And his dad just ended up there dead.
Yeah.
And this guy's been dropping off dead animals.
Sure.
So plenty of reasons to look a little further into this, but they're like, later, brah.
It's fine.
Ugh.
So then we cut to Trish and Callie, who are talking over in Trish's like meditating space.
Yeah.
They have a little sister talk about how fucked up everything is. It goes on for a little while, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to bed. They're going up the stairs and they hear that sound, that creature sound. And Trisha, for the first time, hears it.
Yeah.
Along with Callie. And then something jumps out at them from the darkness.
Yeah.
So then we cut to the police station and Callie is in there. And this is the detective, Brian.
Finally. We
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
16,000 scenes later.
Yeah.
It's fine though. So Callie is telling the story of the thing taking Trish. And it's sort of similar to what happened when the thing took Daniel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into the whole thing.
No.
But they don't believe her. And Brian asks, he's like, did a deal go bad? And they took Trish and they say that they're going to test Callie's blood and question her a lot more and that she'll need to file a missing persons report. They don't believe Callie.
No. That's one thing about the detectives. At this point in the movie, I felt like they're not believing her because of the ridiculous nature of the story.
Right.
I feel like they're not believing her because they're fucking bad at their job. Nothing has cast these guys in any kind of good light.
Right.
Right. And all these people are missing. They're not finding anybody. They're pissing all over the theories. They have a guy they suspect is a serial killer. They let him go because he was sassy.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you guys.
I know.
And now you're giving her shit.
Yeah. So, so then we cut to the house, where, I mean, I guess they said they were going to question Callie a lot more, but I guess not, because she's back at the house on her own. And she's putting together all the research that she did about creatures in tunnels.
Yeah.
And she labels the envelope that she's stuffing all this information into. She labels it Mallory.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means. I don't know who Mallory is.
Well, keep going.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. Then she stares out the window for a while. And then at night, Callie leaves the house and goes to the tunnel. She leaves the envelope on the bed. She stops at the edge of the tunnel. And it's a little while. It's like she's kind of working up the courage to go in. She goes in. And here I did note the camera work is like a little shaky, but it might be a stylistic choice. It might have been the translation to streaming. It's not terrible.
Yeah. Let me just say, I think it might have been the translation, transcoding or whatever.
Sure.
Because I did mention during a quick break when we were watching this that I like it. It's jittery.
Yeah.
But we've seen this before. Whatever the master file was that they sent in to put on streaming, it didn't translate 100%.
Okay.
So we've seen where, and listeners, you've seen it too. You'll be watching something and it's not like, it has nothing to do with the, fucking how many, hertz response refreshes your screen. It's just all of a sudden things are just like pip, 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 jerky.
Yeah.
They're not fast moving, not anything, because nothing in this movie is super fast.
Right.
Right. But I think because of this was like a ultra low light at this point.
That's true.
So
it's night and then a tunnel.
Yeah. I think it just didn't quite transfer correctly.
Right. So she's walking through and she stops halfway through the tunnel and she just says, trade.
Yeah.
And she says it a few times. And nothing happens for a while. And then suddenly there's sounds of like people screaming and there's handprints all over the walls. And it's like there's something happening beyond.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Beyond what you can see. And Callie keeps insisting on a trade.
Right.
And then behind her, a body part appears.
See, now I thought it was a fetus.
Oh.
I think that's what I put in my notes because it looked like, because I think I know what she was going for.
Right.
But as we all know, when you're dealing with dickish evil entities,
yeah,
fine, I'll trade you.
Yeah.
Here's your dead fetus niece nephew.
Right. That's
Yuck.
Really dark. I don't know. So then Callie starts to run toward the entrance of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And we follow her all the way to the entrance. And just as we get to, the barrier, essentially, between tunnel and not tunnel, all that comes out is a shoe.
And this is another excellent edit.
Oh, it was a fantastic edit.
I mean, imagine you're following a runner as they're coming up to the finish line. And just as they're about to put their chest out to bust through that tape, we cut.
Yeah.
180 degrees. And instead of them busting through the line, we see a shoe fly past it.
It was a great edit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes. $0 special effect there. And it was masterful.
Yeah. It was a perfect timing. That was the perfect frame.
Yes.
So then we see Brian, the detective. He finds the envelope of research.
See, and I think his name is Mallory, Brian Mallory.
Oh,
Detective Mallory.
probably.
That's what my take on it was.
So inside is also the Billy Goat's Gruff book. And on it is in like Sharpie written, "Beware the things underneath." So then we kind of get a little montage-y kind of like, this is a little epilogue, I guess.
Yeah.
Where the police are telling Brian that they'll keep the case open indefinitely. We get some possible scenarios of what might have happened to Callie and Trish. And it's kind of the similar, we're circling back to the first part of the movie where Trish is talking about all the things that she kind of imagined that Daniel might have been doing, you know? So he's trying to reason this out, even though he's got this envelope full of information that Callie left for him. He never really believed her, right? And he's saying, well, maybe, Trish left or she always talked about wanting to go off on her own and do, just be free.
Yeah.
Or maybe they planned this out and they left together, all this kind of stuff.
Completely off the grid.
Yeah.
Living in a hut.
Yeah. I mean, none of these potential scenarios that he puts out there are like terribly, terribly unlikely, but none of them are also super likely. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're all just kind of.
Well, it's his version of what we had Trisha talking about earlier.
Yeah.
All of it could be any number of things, whatever comes to their mind.
Mm-hmm. So as Brian now is hanging the missing persons posters, and they have both Callie and Trish's picture on them, he sees a figure at the entrance of the tunnel, and he walks toward it, goes to check it out, but there's no one there. And then as he walks away, we see from behind kind of the silhouette of a woman, presumably Trish or Callie.
I thought it was maybe Callie because the hair, she had a...
Maybe.
It
Callie had
more
longer
like her
hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of see an insect crawling over her shoulder and we hear the sound.
Yeah. And then boom, black.
Yeah. The end.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie.
I did too, but there are some negatives.
Well, I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but it is it's very solid.
Well, dude, I want to talk about what you think this all meant. I have some theories about what we watched.
Okay.
As it was happening, but first, I want to hit the story building bit.
Okay.
Okay. Two things. I firmly believe that in the original version of this script, Trisha was not pregnant because it actually has nothing to do with anything. They make a mention and emotion, but it has nothing to do with the story. Nothing. Not even like bonding with the detective. He's just a dick. And
yeah, I mean, I think the actress was pregnant.
That's just it. Yeah, I think she got pregnant while they were ramping up to do this or something, and they just went with it. I get it. I think it was a tragic choice because it involved the detectives way more than they needed to be. And I think it just, here's why. First of all, the introduction of it. All right. So we make it out. Her husband's missing, this and that. And then she's pregnant. And then it springs us on us that it's 7 years later.
Right.
This whole thing of
that I did. I was like, well, okay.
See, that's what I mean. In terms of story building, that was a fucking critical error. That was a huge misstep because you should immediately, when you do that, it should have immediately followed up with her relationship with the detective. And that should have been a solid B through line through this whole thing, right? That baby had to have a purpose. It didn't.
Not really.
Other than the actress got pregnant and we just have to roll with it. That's what I got out of it because of that poor story building bit, making it the detective's baby. Again, I feel like we had way more detective than we needed. And every scene with the detectives is the absolute worst of this whole film. They're all equally bad because first of all, the detectives, as far as the acting and performances go, they're the worst.
They're the weakest
They are.
link of this film.
These two young women did a fucking fantastic job.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Danny, for what he had involved in this, did a great job. You know, even the weirdo, Walter's kid, right?
Yeah.
Did a good job. These detectives were terrible. I mean, they were bad. That's why I feel like these were add-ins. And I might be wrong. Someone might know the information, and we might even be able to, speak to the creator. But I feel like they were thrown in to cover up this pregnancy and to fill in some gaps that it caused. They just didn't feel like they belonged.
Mm.
I mean, they're ineffectual. They're irrelevant to the story, unreasonably hostile and suspicious, also while being poor at their job. These were the worst elements of this story. I would love to take this and edit it and just cut them out. And I bet this would be an even better ride.
There is, I have learned, a whole subsection of people in the world who that's their hobby, is they fan edit stuff.
Oh, yeah.
To make it better. I work with Tim, who I work with. He does that. That's his big hobby.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. That's his huge hobby. He's always telling me about his fan edits and stuff that he's doing.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You know why? Because a long time ago, somebody did that. And this is before internet, right? This is before anything digital. They would be able to get a hold of worn out film.
Mm-hmm.
So like 35 millimeter, sometimes even 70 millimeter film that had made its rounds to the theaters. Well, just like dollar bills, it gets to a point where they're like, nope, this can no longer be in circulation. So we're going to destroy it. But what they'll do sometimes is shadily, it'll end up in people's hands, collectors and stuff. So what they'll do is they would edit. So this goes back to Highlander 2. The Highlander 2 was such a fucking major disappointment. Somebody got a hold of a theatrical reel of that movie and went through and cut out all the shit they were talking about aliens, just like hard cuts.
Yes.
Right? Just like hard cuts. And then started showing it.
Mm-hmm.
And word got around. Curiously enough, they did a professional re-edit of the film because we had talked about this.
Yeah.
Right? It was so bad they had to cut that whole alien storyline out. And it was way better. Still sucked, but it was way better than that first. So that is kind of how it kicked off. I'm sure there have been some before that, but that's the only one I know of that actually brought out a major professional. This guy's like, look how much better this is.
Yeah.
And I just used a pair of scissors and some fucking Scotch tape.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. One of Tim's big projects that he is continuously working on forever, and he tells me about it all the time, is his chronological fan edit of the Walking Dead series and the spinoffs that he is compiling together in chronological order.
Oh, God.
Every scene. Yeah.
Fuck, why?
Because he likes pain, I think.
God. God, Fear the Walking Dead. And then the other one, the newest one that came. Well, the newest one that came out takes
Beyond or something.
Yeah, but that takes place. That's supposed to be like long after everyone we know is dead.
Well, I don't think he's working that in. I think for now it's TWD and Fear the Walking Dead. But
well, Fear the Walking. You know how I feel about that sack of shit. So
anyway.
Well, I mean, you know what he could do is just like what he should do is take Morgan out of Fear the Walking Dead. Yeah. And then reinsert him back into The Walking Dead. And just cut all the rest of the Fear the Walking Dead shit out, but just bring Morgan back and work those. I think that would be fucking hilarious. And, we love Morgan. Fuck the rest.
I think we've definitely we have to get together with Tim and his wife. And I think that you two will just like hit it off. And then Melanie and I will not be able to find you guys for months, maybe. I don't know. I think you guys will just like.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think you guys might run away together, is what I'm saying.
That's a little weird and unsettling, but okay. So anyway, let's come back to this.
Yes.
The pregnancy, I feel, was literally a spear through the heart of this whole film. I think it led to a lot of the downsides. Now, if you look past those, everything that did not involve the detectives, I really enjoyed. Again, that baby Because even Daniel, what the fuck was that? Oh, big belly. No. The fuck she's saying no to?
Well, I think she's saying, no, you don't have the right to, even ask about this.
I don't know. I think he has the right.
I don't think so. He's been gone for 7 years.
Yeah, but it's not been his fault.
Yeah, but
And
it's also not her fault that he was gone for 7 years.
Well, she fucked the detective. That's her fault. It's nobody else's fault but hers. That shouldn't have been going on. That was improper.
Well,
She could have had like a relationship, but you don't. I'm sorry. You don't. And there's so many movies that do this. You don't have a fucking relationship with the police officer who is handling the case of your missing spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, other partner, whatever. It's just awful. And it always ends up shit. So common sense, big sense of morality, and Hollywood is showing us this is all a terrible thing. That's all. That's all. All I'm saying. Anyway, without these detectives, I got the sense that none of this had anything to do with where he was. Right up until he showed up on the street. For real.
right.
I don't think that was a ghost. I don't think it was anything. I think it literally was her guilty conscience.
Yes.
Manifesting. And it had nothing to do with him or where he was. She was just imagining it. And I think this is one of those horror movies where it's just benign shit. There's nothing actually happening. And then coincidentally, he shows up. Because they do make a mention. Walter, when she found Walter Callie found him in the tunnel, he made the comment, I think maybe he's tired and he's not paying attention. Or was it he's asleep?
He's asleep.
He's asleep.
He's asleep right now.
He's asleep right now. And he said he, or did he say it? Did he say it?
I don't remember.
Let's just say it. Let's just say he said it.
I think it's asleep.
It's asleep right now. Meaning that there is something that's holding them back. So coincidentally, because he's been missing longer.
Yeah.
Than
he was missing long enough for his young child, to become an adult.
Yeah, he's a young man, and when he went missing, he was just a wee little fellow.
Right.
So and he knows that he's there.
Yeah.
Right. We've given no indication that there's been hauntings or terrifying things going on.
Right.
He's trying to help.
Right. And one of the things that we don't cover everything in our notes for the movie, but it was mentioned in the movie that Walter's son, when Callie was doing her research, Walter's son had said that he saw a monster take his dad away. Right. He witnessed this happening the same way Callie witnessed it happen to Daniel the second time Daniel was taken.
Yeah. Yeah. The boy saw it, and everyone dismissed it, including Trisha, because he was like 8, maybe 9. Right? He was
a kid.
Yeah. But anyway, that's one thing that really intrigued me. Is at first I thought it was sort of a Grudge style haunting. Kind of he's pissed because she's getting to the end. Although it did make me think, why now? Why are you? You were okay with her banging the detective and clearly shutting all that shit down.
Right.
Long before filing this paperwork. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay with that. But now that we're getting to the paperwork part, you're going to come back, but it was interesting to me that she had the dream.
Right.
And then the haunting began.
Yeah.
So I was kind of iffy. And then at the end of it just like these are two separate things.
I agree.
Yeah. One was completely psychological.
Yeah. Just
her.
Well, and that's the other thing is before Daniel physically came back, her lucid dream Daniel is angry and scary and, and like needles her, and also speaks in full, complete, understandable sentences. Where when Daniel comes back, he is none of those things, right?
Right.
He is meek and terrified and like a child almost.
Well, they talk about him in one of their sister talks that's how he was. How he came. Well, when he came back, obviously he's mentally fucked. He's traumatized.
Oh yeah.
PTSD, clearly, right? But his general nature was soft-spoken, kind-hearted. Yeah. I mean, he was like a nerd.
Yeah.
He wasn't a yelling kind of guy. So yeah, all of her visions of him, and being just really shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't jive, And also, towards the end, I'm thinking, well, if you're trapped in a place that you want out of, why would you come and horrify people?
Right?
I'd be like, I need help. I'm trapped. Not, blah.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's not how you ask for help. So anyway, yeah. All in all, because of these layers, this was really good.
Yeah.
Right. And I can see this as an early work from somebody who went on to direct Dr. Sleep. That's a lot of things we watch are from people's early years,
And he's done a lot of other things too. I mentioned that because it's the latest and it's
the latest. Yeah. Big. It's an full on.
I mean, Ewan McGregor and
A-list studio backed.
Oh yeah.
Bam. It's a tentpole film. Now I think of things like one of my favorite all-time movies that we'll probably be talking about on here shortly is Dark Star, John Carpenter's student film.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this thing when I was 12 down at the UW Union Theater, back when they did it for free from like 9:00 Saturday night as an alternative to the UW students drinking. Rolled down there, like, what's this? I was in love with it. And you've seen it. It's not great.
Nope.
It's a student film, all right. But anyone who's seen Carpenter's films, when you see this, you can see the director that will be.
Well, it's kind of like when we watched Bad Taste.
Yes.
Directed by Peter Jackson.
Yes. We see the elements of, that piece is going to become
that signature PJ.
Signature piece. And that right there is going to be the flagstone on the pavement of story making. This is his thing for this. And then the rest of it is like, well, you have to learn what not to do to master what to do.
Well, and you can also see where someone might have been limited by budget,
Well, right.
Or materials on hand.
Well, and there's the whole thing. There's the maturity of, not just like, gaining years, but the maturity of experience. The more experience you have, the more you learn the process and like, I got to stop doing this. This doesn't work. This is
right.
This is all about me. And that's not how you make a good film.
Right.
Got to cut that shit out. But yeah, it's all wonderful. So this I can see because it is really well done.
Yeah.
I feel like hopefully the lesson learned for the director was this is not going to be, I'm not going to let weird circumstances dictate my script. Because I don't know the relationships. Because when we were talking about this, we showed our neighbor, like last night we were playing D&D. We were talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Showing the trailer. And he was like me. He's like, who the fuck is this woman?
Oh, yeah.
She looks so familiar, but her IMDb, there's nothing.
Well, there's like 4 things, but I haven't seen any of them.
I looked. It's nothing. It's smaller than this. She reminded me of somebody that I've seen multiple times. Are
you talking about Trish or Callie?
Trish.
Okay. Yeah. Because, she's got, yeah.
Yeah, it is that I was expecting to like, oh God, maybe
of course.
it's 10 years ago and she was pregnant. So, she looks a little bit different. But now, no, essentially, effectively,
She just has one of those faces.
it's that could be a movie too. Because I honestly feel a little haunted by that. She looks so familiar. And Tyler was the same. Like,
yeah.
I've seen that face, but I guess I haven't.
What's weird is the woman who plays Callie has been in a ton of things over the years.
Yeah.
Little parts on TV shows and stuff. Bit parts. She's been making a living.
Yeah.
For a while as an actress.
Didn't catch me. Didn't catch my eye as like, oh, another. You know what it reminded me of? The bit on Doctor Who where the silence. They edited into all the scenes from all of the Doctor series up till the present, and then when they edited it in Clara, all the way back to the first Doctor, and that was fun as hell.
It was fun,
but when looking at her thing, I'm like, oh, I feel like maybe could have been popped into these things. She's in the background over here, in the background over here. And over here.
Yeah.
Like, why am I not catching on to this? Anyway, Mike Flanagan did a good job with this.
Yeah.
I think he sacrificed some things for reasons we won't know.
As one does on low budget indie films.
Right. Well, no, not even on that. I think everything worked really well. The editing on this was fucking fantastic. Those effects for Daniel were magnificent. They weren't overdone. And that's one of the things I hate jump scares. But the one thing about this is it's kind of creepy that he shows up. It's a little startling.
Right.
But then he stays there like that whole patio scene.
Yeah.
By the patio door, and they still he came up with a way to make you go, damn.
Yeah.
Right. Even though you're looking right at the fucking thing. So, and it wasn't like another thing, which they often do. They'll bring in like a second element.
Oh yeah.
To scare you. So I just will hold that the detectives killed the momentum when they were on the screen. I couldn't wait for them to fucking go away. And mostly, I never understood what fucking, what's his fucking name? Brian was talking about. Baby daddy. I really didn't have any fucking idea. Where is he coming from? At what point of the conversation did we step into this? Because nobody else looks like they know where he's coming from and going on about. And then it's one of those things, and just mysteriously as he appeared on screen, he's gone. It's like, okay, let's give him some Brian. This is a bad place to live. And he's gone. It's almost like a Monty Python bit. I could have done without that.
Sure. But I think, on the positive side for this movie, and I really I enjoyed it immensely. I think I enjoyed it to the point where, I'm not a huge fan of the detective bits in this movie, but I can easily forgive them because everything else is really, really good.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying, I just wish they weren't there.
Sure.
That's all. I watched it. I can't undo it. But yeah, I'm with you. It was good. I'm not crapping on it. I really enjoyed it. I just wish we didn't see them.
Yeah.
Once it's all done.
So, and so the jump scares, there are a couple of them, but none of them are cheap jump scares.
Right.
How when you're watching a horror movie and you see someone, they're looking in the bathroom mirror and they open up the mirror to the medicine cabinet. You fucking know when they close the medicine cabinet door, there's going to be something behind them.
Right.
Right. That's the jump scare. Like none of them in this movie were cheap trope bullshit ones.
No, they were intentional.
Yeah.
And they flowed, which again, I hate jump scare movies, but I found myself, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Because of that very thing.
And they didn't lean on them. They leaned more into the creepy factor.
Right. Well, life is a series of jump scares.
Sure.
And when things go bad. It's not like it kind of rolls in slowly and gives you the foreshadowing and the backstory and everything.
T-shirt idea. Life is a series of jump scares.
I could set that up right now and add that to our logo shirts.
Do it.
Oh man. So they do happen, but things like Paranormal Activity, right?
Oh, that's their whole thing.
That's the
it.
whole thing, and it just gets trashy. Then we were talking last night about the formula for the false scares to lead to the jump scares.
Yes.
Like Friday the 13th, they even had the music. And it builds up.
So you tense up. You're waiting for it.
And then it's the pizza guy.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're like,
so then we get about 2-3 minutes of, random shit. Some, it's Friday the 13th, so we get like a nipple. And then we get, and the formula is 3 times. They fuck with you 3 times, and then boom, they bring it.
Right.
That was a huge formula back in the 80s and 90s. And you don't need it. And I've said you don't need jump scares. Something can happen. Ooh, creepy. But then keep going with it. And like I said, that fucking scene reaches out. Danny? Rah! Whoa. Didn't you,
Well, and then she backs up, and then she backs into him.
Yeah.
She backs up, and then he's behind her.
Yeah.
And he wraps his arms around her. It is a good scare.
It is.
That scene.
And editing.
That is the biggest thing. I mean, if nothing else, right? This movie is masterfully edited.
Yes. Yeah, folks, hell, I was looking at it thinking, God, if I knew anything about editing, this would help me, but I don't. So it's kind of lost on me.
Well, that's fair.
It's one thing to see.
We know good editing when we see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I say, it's one thing to see, I see what they did there. And if I had the footage, I see how to do that. But I'm not an editor. So even getting to that point where this would make it better, it's like you can't polish a turd, right?
Sure.
It's not my thing, as we know.
So it's not mine either. I'm not,
But it does make me, Jesus Christ, if I could get my hands around this, I would love to put this into effect. I see this effect. I see how this works, and I see how it would be worth going frame by frame.
Yeah.
Right? Let's edit. Okay. Edit number 1. I'm going to cut here and cut here. Boom. Okay. Now what if I go 2 more frames over here going into it and leave it here? Should I go 2 frames back on the second cut? Where does it stop and then end to get that beautiful, she's right at the edge. Here's a shoe.
Jump cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bam. And it's literally 1 frame can make or break a perfect edit.
Yeah.
And that's why editors are editors, So this, I think, would be, this is a masterclass for editors. It's got some lessons on, story building.
I think
like
also,
that,
a good masterclass in building up creepiness and eeriness in a film.
Yeah, taking ownership of it and not just letting it run rampant, boo, blah, boo, blah.
Yeah.
Spooky, scary. You scared me. You scared me, because this is not a gore fest.
It is not.
But it is creepy. It's
it is
full marks.
Very creepy.
Yeah.
And it is, I've said this a couple of times. It's tough to get just like a good, solid horror film.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
There is always a hook or a twist or a gimmick of some sort. And I'm sure this has a hook. But it's not like I don't know. It just, to me, this is like, how do I put it? When you just want like a really good bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah.
And you don't need it to be fucking
spagball,
fancy bullshit spaghetti, with like a garlic bread shoved in the side that's way too fucking crunchy.
Yeah.
And like a million fresh basil leaves on top and, someone to come by with fresh parm. Like, I just want a straight, good, I just want a regular bowl of spaghetti.
You just want a box of Kraft spaghetti.
No, I don't want.
That's it. You just want what you want. You want something base.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want it. I want it solid. It's got to be good. I don't want shit spaghetti.
Well, I know.
But I want. I don't need to go all out.
I hear you. Well, here's the thing, though. This movie's 10 years old.
Yeah.
So it's not going to conform to the current trends.
That's true.
That's, it's going to stick out. But I think that's also important that movies this old and older are brought up in our show and other shows. And that when people see this, they can watch it. It's important to put attention on them to say, see how well this worked? It just contrasts more against the stupid shit that they're coming out with in traditional horror cinema. It lives. It
follows.
It follows.
Yeah.
Is got to be the one of the top 3 biggest wastes of my fucking life when we sat and watched that.
Oh, a sexually transmitted stalker?
I was so furious that I actually sat and gave that fucking thing my time that I'll never get back. And I have to go through my life, the rest of my life, sullied by that fucking movie. I watched it. I can never, ever shake that shame.
But that's just the thing is like a good, decent bowl of spaghetti. We don't need all this frivolous bullshit. This movie hit the spot for me. It hit the horror spot.
It did.
Yeah. It was good.
It was a conventional horror. That's what I would call
it.
We didn't rely on a weird killer.
Right.
We didn't rely on gore. And we all know how you love yourself some.
I do. I like gore a lot.
Yeah. But it's not, the be all end all.
Usually if a horror movie doesn't have gore, then yeah.
Well, right. But you also love the classics.
Oh, yeah.
Which are notably short on gore.
Yes.
Right. But because horror was in the story more than the makeup and everything else, and it was more like Frankenstein, the concept of his monster. You look at it, you can look at it from a Jungian point of view. You can look at it from, Victor is, I'm going to do all this because for whatever reason, I want to do it. And then you have this poor thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like trying to come to terms with what it is. And yeah, it's just a terrible, it's horrifying thinking about it as it's happening.
It's really, very sad.
It is. And, not all classic horror movies did super credit to the originating stories. But
I still think Bela Lugosi's Dracula is just
the tits.
It is.
I would put that up there and right with Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, it's
those
chef's kiss. Mwah.
Well, those are the 2, I think, best film creatures. Because Bela brought something to it that
he is just so fabulous.
Well, even the
Dracula.
book lacked, right? Dracula wasn't like super personality, right? It was all.
I love the book.
I know, but I think Bela's Dracula. If you were to put that in the book, I would have enjoyed it more.
Oh, sure.
Because there was something to it. Now the rest of the story was all over the fucking place, right? In the film. But yeah, there was just something about it. Because let's be honest, Mary Shelley, all these people who wrote in this Gothic period, they weren't known for giving anyone real personalities. They were just archetypes, right? You have the weird sullen fellow, you have the proper Victorian fellow, and then you have a peasant, right? Those were the types.
Because so Bram Stoker's Dracula is told from the point of view of John Harkness, who is the most like bland, boring fellow to ever live.
Well, he's a lawyer.
He's so boring.
It's all about papers and just need to get your signature, man.
And I always liked to think that, I mean, maybe this isn't intentional, but I always liked to think that John Harkness's boringness and blandness was what made his story very interesting, because he's the most boring man in the world, the most vanilla guy you can ever meet, possibly ever. And he's telling this fantastical story.
You're 100% right. Because that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They don't know how to create a personality in Dracula to make him interesting. So they use the type. He's there. He sets for the reader. This is the base level of society. This is anyone who's reading these books is at this level of society. Let's be honest. The peasants weren't flocking to libraries, ripping out books about Dracula, right?
Sure.
Poor people were farming. They didn't have time for this horse shit. So they're going for middle to high society. So they're equating them with somebody who is vanilla, mundane. This is just your average dude, right? Wearing his little fucking top hat, maybe a monocle. Okay. Goes about his daily business. So everyone's familiar with that. And then he's contrasting what he's seeing.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh my God, that's, heathenish. And,
yeah.
Little fan. How many fans?
Right.
Yeah. But on their merits, none of those fucking characters, that whole, and I'm saying all, not just this one, all those books are perfect examples of how not to write, period.
That's true.
You're not going to get a master class like, let's see what Bram Stoker did.
Yeah.
And then let's do that. You're not going to sell anything.
I do want to correct myself. I said his last name is Harkness. It's Harker.
Oh, Harker.
I fucked up. But
Harkness.
I know it it's Harkness. I don't know where I pulled that from.
No, I know, because we were just watching something. It's from one of the shows.
Oh.
Jack Harkness.
Oh, sure.
Duh. Yeah. One of our favorite.
Yeah. He's great.
Captain Harkness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain Jack.
Captain Jack.
Okay. Anyway.
Sorry. I didn't want someone to email us and be like, actually, it's Harker, but.
Yeah. We got so much shit going through our head. We can't keep it all fucking straight every second.
I know. And you can verify. I did not just look it up. My laptop is closed.
That is true. Yes.
So.
Anyway, good movie. Lots of lessons. Masterclass in editing.
Yeah.
I think that's how we would sum this up. Well worth watching if you haven't seen it yet, even on an entertainment value. Bear down when you see that big bald detective. Just clench your fists, tighten your ass, bear down, and just push through it. Push through it. They're not long. They're frequent, but they're not long. You'll still enjoy the story.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. I had fun. I liked it a lot.
I did too. And, thinking about all the psychological ramifications of what happened. Had they not both disappeared, up to that point. I mean, how do you just declare somebody dead? Then they're alive. Now, I don't know why she has to fill out a missing persons report because he wasn't reported as alive. I mean, I know the detective saw him, but legally speaking, he's dead. He can't be missing. You can have a sighting, but you can't report him as missing because he hasn't been factored back in.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much time passed between him getting into the hospital, being treated for, malnutrition. I don't know how much time would have passed.
I don't think a lot. In fact, I think if we went back, I think Callie's still wearing the same outfit. It's kind of hard to tell, though, because she's always just
not sure
wearing dark shit. The only time she's really notably in something different is jammies or running.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think it was a super long time because I would think the detectives would have had enough time to bump them. They had some really rudimentary questions and they showed up.
Right.
So anyway,
where were you?
You can take those moments as sort of a comical thing, folks. Ponder on that. What the fuck is wrong with you, man?
Yeah.
Deride them a bit in your head. But it's great overall. It's great. And it's wonderful for horror fans who like just the creepiness that horror brings. Not the gimmicks, not the gore, not the, blood fest. Something that truly makes you feel on multiple levels, from a logical to an irrational level, weirded out.
That's true.
It did the trick.
Yeah.
And
they hit on something. This is another thing really, really quickly.
Sure.
We are going long.
Who cares?
I mean, they hit on something that a lot of horror movies kind of forget to do, which is something that everyone is kind of scared about. We talked about in the beginning, the thing in the tunnel, the thing under the bridge.
Right. I was thinking about
it's
that
universal.
Today. Wow, because I was listening to the last bit of the Troll Hunter episode.
Sure.
I'm so bad at listening to. If there was an audio problem, what's it fucking matter? In 2 days, it's coming down. I got to do this quicker. But anyway, I was listening to it, and we were talking about the Bray Road Beast.
Yeah.
And the Hodag, and
the other ones.
Yeah. And I was thinking, because we're talking about, there's not a lot of troll stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's true. The only troll story I heard growing up was Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even it was just like a thing, right? Like it was like, oh, well, the Dr. Seuss book I want has been checked out. So what's this? Let me get into this one. Cool. All right. Never gave it a thought.
Right.
And then, I was thinking, because also in there, we were talking about how Kachinas would make an excellent Native American mythology would flood American cinema with some of the best shit we've seen in 75 years. But then I got thinking, all those troll stories are to scare kids. And I was thinking, trolls under the bridge, where are these villages? Right? Isolated, these old medieval things. They have a bridge. They don't want their kids crossing over the bridge.
Right.
Because, then they're going to get super fucking lost. So what do? You do like some of the Kachina
stories.
Them
there's something scary under the bridge.
You terrify them. Yeah.
It's going to get you.
Yep. You know what? It's not a whole, you need to listen to mom and dad. You do this, you'll die.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. And most kids respond to that with, I'm not going to do that.
Right. It doesn't need to be a troll either. I mean, it's so ingrained in our society. There's something under the bridge. There's something in the tunnel. Right. There's something in the basement.
But here's the thing. I was thinking about this. The reason
There's something underneath.
Yeah. Is not because of the trolls, but because what we were talking about. It's so uncomfortable. All of these underpasses are dirty and filthy, and dirty, filthy, we all equate to bad things happening. Now, I grew up in a super bad neighborhood where everything was dirty and filthy. So that especially hits it with me. I see this and I'm like, oh, they look like a nice neighborhood. And I saw that underpass. And in my head, I was thinking, that's a hard pass. A big nope.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. If I lived there, I would tell you, I will find a place to cross. I'll see you on the other side because I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
It just brings me back to reality. It's funny because there's nothing about the reality. There's no reality. I haven't seen a boogeyman. I haven't been taken by, spectral forces.
Right.
And all this shit. But we have developed that. These weird little places, crossing bridges, I guess, for kids in the Netherlands, they're shitting their pants. They see the fucking Americans are going left, over the bridge, back, over and back, over and back. What the fuck's wrong with them?
Right.
And we can't equate to what are you so amped up about, man? You people in your bridges, but we think of, the underpasses because like in Europe, this is no big deal.
Right.
A lot of underpasses in a lot of these countries and they're heavily used.
They might even be clean sometimes.
I wouldn't know what to do, but it does touch on the basic irrational. Why do we feel ill at ease?
Yeah. In
these situations? And when I first saw it, I knew it was a horror movie, so I knew something weird was about it when she was jogging through it.
Oh yeah.
But like you, I was like, this. They're spending too much time here, man. Is she gonna make it?
Right. Yeah, and that's intentional.
Yeah. And there's nothing about it that should make me feel that way. Nothing has happened in the film.
In the tunnel.
Right. It's that whole Hitchcockian thing. I don't know that there's a bomb somewhere in the room. I don't know that there's anything going on. All I know is she's just out running, but I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I think that was beautifully done. And it's not just a story thing in the shots and everything.
But yeah, just finding and touching on something, this is the lesson, finding and touching on something that is universally, something that people are wiki about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, trolls.
Yeah.
That's why it's a Norwegian film and it did really good. because people identified with it. We love it here because it's just good.
It's great.
Right? We know a little bit about trolls. But this is, big, I guess the biggest, editing, number one. Number two,
Creepiness.
find that thing.
Yeah.
Find that it doesn't have to be a weird ass hook. It doesn't have to be a ejaculatory
Right.
entity that ruins your luck and taunts you until you fuck somebody else. I mean, anyway, something simple. We all have childhood fears. We all have irrational fears.
Yeah.
Right. I'm afraid of heights. I think we talked about this a long time ago. It's not rational. Nothing has happened to me that I haven't fallen off of like a 40-story building, right? I've fallen off of things, sheds, trees and stuff. But I can stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon and like bend over 90 degrees and I'm fine. But you put me on top of a 2-story roof with a ladder and I'm fucking freaked out.
I'm troubled by being high up on man-made things also.
Man-made things, yes. I can be in a plane, no problem. I can be in a helicopter, done it. I've jumped out of them, no big deal.
But man-made structures.
But a structure, yeah. And bridges. Don't like big bridges.
Yeah.
It's in Milwaukee.
Oh, I know.
Do with that. Fucking thing's like 35 stories high. Why? There isn't even anything on that end of town. Anyway. Okay, folks.
With that. Go check out our website.
www.lordsofmisrulproductions.com.
We've got everything there.
We do. All the links to the platforms where you can subscribe to us on. Social media links.
Link to our Patreon page.
Link to our merch page for the podcast.
Heck yeah, merch.
Right? We just got our shirts and stuff. I think last time we talked about, we got the masks in this wonderful bottle. We did get the shirts and the hoodie. They're excellent.
Yeah.
So we're pleased with them. They do pretty good, these merch people.
Sure. Yeah. They do. Yeah. I like them. Yeah. I think the one thing was we, obviously washed the shirts and stuff. I think sometimes when you order stuff that's printed, it has that weird, like, just been printed smell.
Well, yeah. And a couple other things. Because when the hoodie came, Lily was like, oh, it smells like bad vinegar. We got to wash this.
And then we washed it and now it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So, anyway, so there's our merchandise. If you want to proudly display how much of a B-sider you are,
go
ahead and just order something. Not tons of stuff on there. We're not going to go through it. You'll see. When you check out our social media, we always say check out who we're following and who's following us. These are podcasters and also fellow creatives.
Filmmakers, actors, writers, directors, yada, all the people.
Everything. Check them out, see what's going on. Check out the podcasts, see what they're going on. We have a lot of followers and people we follow that are not film related.
Right.
Podcasts, right? It's just other stuff because, the world's a big place. So,
yes.
Check everyone out, do what you can, give someone a listen, give us a rating and preferably a review on your platform of choice. And also these other folks.
Yeah.
Do that every time you can. I know it's a pain in the ass sometimes to try to keep up with it all, but all you got to do is just one.
And I do want to give a little plug to our buddy Miles, who does the Disc Dump podcast. We're going to be guesting on an episode of that coming up sometime soon. Not sure when it will air, but sometime soon. Keep an eye out. We'll be on there.
Yep, we'll be on there with one of our favorites. I think your top favorite.
It is my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's in my top 3. I got a couple others that I have to take.
Oh yeah, I know.
But I don't love it any less.
It's wonderful.
And also, aside from the Disc Dump podcast, also check out The Link, which is another podcast I had mentioned a little while ago. And, real simple. Someone who's starting out has made some really big improvements with sound and recording and stuff. So someone who's serious about this, because we've heard podcasts where they just sound terrible. There's no structure. Not everything's good.
Right. Or bad sound.
And when they're 150 episodes in, you could try and do a little something, we try. And anyway, so the link, improving day by day. So give that a listen also.
That's the name of it? Improving day by day?
No, the link.
Oh, the link. Okay.
Yeah, it's improving day by day.
Got it.
As he keeps going on, he's, doing what I've done, experimenting, this and that, Okay, anyway. So that, B-siders. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I think I've covered it all.
That's it.
All right. Website links to all the stuff. Leave us a rating, preferably a review. Keep listening. Get your vaccinations if they're available. Wear your masks. I know that this week CDC said, you don't need to wear your masks for hardly anything.
Unless you go places.
Well, even then.
Yeah, unless you go most places that still require masks.
Yeah. So,
have fun. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
But, I don't know, maybe just keep wearing it a little bit longer. I feel like all these decisions have been too soon, and we've seen waves and resurgences of things. So I think everyone's getting just a little stupid with optimism.
Cavalier.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, everyone's tired of this shit. But to be fair, also, I mean, it's not over till it's over.
Right. So, maybe just wear the mask so you aren't carrying it and spreading it. Even if you don't catch it, you can still, you still have that shit on you. So keep washing hands. Let's just not get stupid. We're almost there. God damn it. We're almost there. So
that's true.
All right. With that, B-siders.
We'll catch you next week. Until then.
This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
And we're out of here.